Hey, my name is Tony Gapastone. I'm the founder and executive director of Maker, and we want to talk to you about this new endeavor that we are starting as of 2020.
Tony and I will be joining forces to come to you to assist with your company culture and organization to improve your equality.
Justice, diversity, and inclusion was how and why Maker started in 2018. We just don't want it to be a box that we check to say we're doing all the right things, we're hiring the right people. It takes a really solid core of a company to recognize the challenges and the problems that need to be solved. And it takes a lot of work and time, effort, and resources. And Maker's original vision was to use the arts in order to do that, to change and affect change in culture. And now we're recognizing we can take these same formats to you, to schools, to community centers, to faith communities, to Silicon Valley, Bay Area corporations, and do these things for you at a corporate level for your staff.
And studies show that organizations that are more diverse and inclusive are much more profitable.
So if you'd like to bring Christina, myself, and our Maker team into your company, you can go to bravemaker.com and we will get in touch with you and set up a package to help you facilitate what we're calling a brave and safe space for justice, diversity, and inclusion.
Brave stories change the world.
And you are the story.
Yo. Here we go.
Hey.
Christina Jackson, my friend, my collaborator, my advocate in truth. Yes.
Everything, right?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Maker online show. Also, if you're listening, the podcast as well, these also go up in audio form. Christina and I are glad to have you watching or listening today for another episode of Brave Stories and Brave Makers. And before we bring on our special guest, I want to have Christina tease out something new that is coming up. So Christina, we have some special new things that are happening. Do you want to tell them about Wheel Queens?
Yeah. So I have teamed up with Miss Wheelchair California 2020, Christine Burke, and her and I will be doing a podcast together. It's called Roll Talk with the Wheel Queens of SF. And Roll Talk is a bit of a play on words, not only because we both have disabilities and use wheelchairs, but also we're both actors. We are both in the arts, which is really amazing. And so we really dive into what it means to be disabled and having an impact in the media and in arts, and representation matters and all that fun stuff. We're going to get into all that in our podcast. So definitely stay tuned for Wheel Queens of SF, a Brave Maker podcast.
Yes, so excited. And speaking of podcasts, want to foreshadow, we have our correspondent, Irving Ruan, who has a really cool guest that's going to be coming up in a couple of days in August 2020 here. So stay tuned to hear all about Charles Yu, who you might have recently seen on the Trevor Noah show. So cool, because Charles is an author. He wrote a book. He's also spoken or written on HBO's Westworld. So take a look, find out more about Charles. We'll be putting more information out on all our social media platforms. And if you are not on our email list, make sure you get on there as soon as possible, because not only will you get information about all the podcasts and things that we're doing, but we also send out free movies and links. And so we took a break the past month from our digital film festival after doing like 15 weeks straight in a row. And come August, we're going to have some new films, narratives, and documentaries coming your way. So go to bravemaker.com/buzz to get connected to that as soon as possible. All right. So with no further ado, we are going to be bringing our guest, Kyra Jones.
Hey!
Hi. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome having you, Kyra.
Hi.
So
Go
ahead, Christina. Go ahead, Christina.
I'm going to turn it. It's here after watching the shows and stalking your Instagram. So now I'm like a fangirl. So, hey.
Oh, thank you. I just from like your intro about your new podcast, I'm about to be a fangirl too, so I'm pumped.
Love that.
Well, this is a cool example of the interwebs connecting people, because this industry that we love so much about entertainment and performing arts and film and art and activism is so much about the relationships that you build on set and beyond. And Kyra is friends with my friend, Lily Jackson in LA, who I've known for almost 2 decades. And I'm really, as I said, any friend of Lily I want to be a friend of mine, because the work that she's doing is really exciting. So shout out to Lily. And so Kyra, I've been as well stalking you and checking out stuff. So we're going to launch in, because you're also from Chicago, which is where I'm from.
Oh,
You're in,
amazing.
yeah, and you're in Chicago right now, right?
Yes, I am. I live in Uptown, so on the north side.
Well, why don't you tell us, give us a little background about who you are and how you got into the performing arts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in Chicago for the past 10 years, but I'm originally from Annapolis, Maryland. And I didn't start acting until high school. My mom forced me to do some kind of extracurricular because she didn't want to deal with me after school. So my friend dragged me to auditions for the drama club, and I never acted before. And I ended up getting the lead role, which was still wild to me. And then I just, fell in love with it from there and decided to study it in college. So I went to Northwestern University. That's how I ended up in Illinois. At Northwestern, I double majored in theater and gender studies. So started to explore more about, the intersections of gender, race, other identities, how that has impacted, the world, and particularly my life and my experiences. And, being a woman of color in a very predominantly white school, particularly a very predominantly white theater department, I had a lot of negative experiences that kind of drove me to want more agency over the way that stories about Black women and other people of marginalized identities were told. So I started writing. So now I am based in Chicago. I am still an actor, but also a screenwriter, starting to do some more film directing. I am an intimacy coordinator, and I actually still work at Northwestern. I am the assistant director of our sexual violence and health resource center. So I have way too many jobs. Too long don't read. I never have free time, but I love everything that I do, and I love that I get to do work that is at the intersections of all of the passions that I have. So.
All right, I love your. I have Kate Brolin, who's one of our Brave Makers, is here. She says she loves your 24/7 shirt. So
thank you.
Kate is also an actor and writer and part of the Brave Maker community. So hi, Kate. Talk about some of that stuff. It's obviously of no surprise when we hear creative people who are wearing multiple hats. One, because we just can't help it sometimes. Two, because it's necessary sometimes to put food on the table and pay our bills and stuff like that. But the intimacy coordinator is a new thing that's developed because of the Me Too movement. For people who don't know, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So an intimacy coordinator is a position that is held on film sets and theater and in theater. It's similar to a fight choreographer, but for intimate scenes. So simulated sex scenes or scenes of simulated sexual assault, or even just like moments where the actors are, very physically close to one another. And it is, I think that people actually have been doing similar practices even before Me Too. But the demand for it and the awareness that it exists, is, a direct consequence of the Me Too movement. And I think, a lot of people think of it as like kind of a position, like people think that you're like intimacy coordinators are there on set just to like make sure no one gets assaulted, which that's like the bare minimum. Like people shouldn't be getting assaulted on sets, but really, it is a creative position. You're there to help the storytelling of this intimate moment like look better. You're there to help the director's vision be fulfilled and look, as best as possible, while making sure that the actors are safe and comfortable. They're wearing, the right modesty garments, that you're not putting them in any type of position where they are doing something that doesn't feel right to them or is physically strenuous or any of those things. Because I've worked, as an actor sometimes directors like don't know what they're talking about. I would say frequently they don't know what they're talking about, especially when it comes to intimacy, because they'll give you notes that like don't even make any sense. Like they'll say like something like, "Oh, can you make this raunchier?" And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yes.
I don't understand what your interpretation of raunchy is. And it's the intimacy coordinator's job to come in and say like, okay, this is how your breath is going to change. This is how your movement is going to change. Like, in order to fulfill that note. So it is, intimacy coordinators do make the production better, not just in terms of safety, but also in terms of like the art itself.
I just, as a director who was an actor, I'm still an actor, but just to make a note on that, I do a lot of coaching for actors. And one of the things we always talk about is how do you interpret notes that a director gives you? Because most directors have no idea how to talk to actors. They usually talk with results-oriented language. They want someone to be angrier or louder or take it up a notch or pull it back. And the actor does not know how to interpret those things. So especially when you're dealing with something as intricate and intimate as a sex scene or assault, to be able to have someone like you by their side in their court is huge. That is really cool. There should be like a translator for directors and actors, because half the time I think directors aren't getting what they want because they don't know how to really communicate in a language that makes sense for an actor. And so many actors walk away from set feeling deflated, like they didn't please their director. And so that's just a big thing that I've had to learn the hard way. That's why I was like, I love being a director who knows what it feels like to be on the other side, because it's hard. It's hard to be on the other side. So good on you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think some of the best directors started as actors, and they have the language to get the performance they want out of the actor. So I thank you for doing that, for being able to jump on both sides of the camera.
Yeah.
For sure, Tony. Multi-talented. Speaking of intimacy, there's a pretty steamy scene in episode 2 of The Right Swipe. And if you haven't seen The Right Swipe, definitely rush over to Vimeo and watch some episodes. And so I'm curious, were you the intimacy coordinator for those scenes?
No, I was not. I actually have not started doing intimacy coordination at that point. So we have an intimacy coordinator named Rachel Flesher, who's amazing. She's done, we shouldn't have been able to afford her. Like she has also done the fight direction for Glow, and she's done intimacy for like Empire, and I think The Shy, and a lot of other big shows. And she did the intimacy for episode 1. For episode 2, the scene that you're talking about, the kiss, we actually didn't have an intimacy coordinator because of cost reasons. We were like, oh, it's just a kiss. We'll be fine with that one. We weren't fine. There were issues. And I will never like underestimate how much, you need an intimacy coordinator even just for kisses. Like, because you never know like what the actors have experienced and what their triggers might be. And it was me. I was the one who got triggered, and I was like, well, I just played my own self. Not having an intimacy coordinator. So, but it ended up being, fine. The end result was good. But, people don't think about like how our past traumas or how our identities can affect how safe we feel on set, particularly doing intimate scenes.
I think that is super important that you said that. So I know a lot of actors are watching this and listening to this, and definitely speak up for yourself. Like have the bravery and the courage to say, I demand an intimacy coordinator be present for this. I don't feel comfortable, and have no reservations about that, because you definitely don't want to put yourself in a compromised position here while you're working. So yeah, thank you for talking about that.
Yeah.
So tell us about the creation of your series, The Right Swipe.
Yeah, so The Right Swipe is a romantic comedy web series co-created by myself and Julie Delpreet. It follows two best friends as they start a business where they renovate men's dating profiles, but then they end up screwing up their own love lives in the process. We kind of describe it as a mix between Hitch and Insecure. And it started just because I'm on all the dating apps. I've been on almost every dating app that it's appropriate for me to be on, and I have noticed all the ways that men refuse to give themselves an advantage by actually like putting interesting things on their profiles or choosing good photos. Like if you scroll through any straight woman's options on any dating app. You'll see just like blurry photos, all these group photos where you can't tell. It's my favorite game to play, like which white man's profile is it, because they'll make their first picture like a group of their friends and they all look the same. And I'm like, I don't know which white man you are. So or
white people all look alike anyway. It's so hard to tell.
You said it, not me. Their bios just like won't exist, or they'll be like, I like The Office and craft beer, and I'm like, that tells me nothing about you. And I've even seen, my friends like will pop up on my dating profiles, and I'll be like, you are so much cuter and more interesting than this. Like, why are you playing yourself? Like, why are you not trying to put, your best foot forward? So, that's the inspiration for the show. And we also we explore in the show the ways that people of marginalized identities try to navigate dating apps, because it's interesting to me. Black women get the least amount of matches on dating apps, Black women and Asian men. So being a part of the group that is not sought after, in some ways, like the dating apps give you a bigger pool of options. So like you have more, chances of finding someone that's interested in you, but then you see the rejection like more clearly, like it's in your face when you swipe right on someone and no one swipes right back on you. And so like, what is that experience like how do you navigate that? How do you navigate racism or homophobia or these other things that pop up on dating apps? So that we wrote the script, and a lot of people in filmmakers in the Chicago area really loved it and hopped on board. We won a few grants to be able to make it. We crowdfunded $25,000, and we were able to make 2 episodes.
That's awesome.
We'll see if more come later. We have the whole season written, but COVID and just money, filmmaking is very expensive. I learned that. And so we would love to produce the rest of the season, but we'll see if that happens.
Let's take a watch of the trailer. Here we go.
Struggling.
Are you only photos of
Are you single and struggling?
Are you only photos of yourself, dick pics and gym selfies?
It's not gonna suck itself.
We can help.
We'll take your dating app profile from basic
To bed.
Another bad date?
They touched my hair.
I'm sorry, what?
Hey, I'm Elijah. This Royce wife?
We can't sleep with our clients or date them or flirt with them.
Girl, you don't know. You are not even on any app.
Danny's not my boyfriend.
Why not? He's cute. He's nice. He has health insurance.
You're perfect.
I'm not going to date someone just for their health insurance. I'm an independent woman.
How are we going to help all these sad men?
I just think that all lives matter.
Hi, is this the white swipe?
Have you two thought about implants?
So you want a white woman?
Hi, Felicia.
Bitch.
Have you even seen Friday?
Apps work. We are really good at our jobs. Love is real.
I think that we should talk.
Hey.
So much unstoppable power.
Your bio is your pitch. You want the girl to greenlight you. What makes you unique?
And in no time at all, you'll find your perfect match.
Talk to you soon.
I'll be there for you.
So good.
Yeah, it is so good.
So
Thank
well
you.
done. Yeah. So we part of our audience are filmmakers and creators who want to hear the process. And you already kind of dipped into a little bit of the hard work that it takes and the money that you put into it. But stand by, hold on a second. I got another thing popping up here here we go. I want to hear a little bit about some of the obstacles of getting it from script to screen. I know that it's a birthing process of bringing your ideas to life, but like, let's hear you talk about what was something that was surprising, something that you learned that was like really amazing, and then something that was just really hard. That's still hard. It never gets easy, potentially. Anything you want to share in the making of Right Swipe?
Yeah, it was definitely a process. It's potentially not over yet. But the hardest thing was absolutely raising money, especially for a web series, because there's not a return on investment for a web series. It's really a labor of love. It's something that you're going to, most likely put online for free or for very cheap. So their investors are like, no, thank you. So you have to like hustle, you have to apply for grants, you have to crowdfund. And I really learned, as an actor, I didn't really have an idea of the cost of production, and it's a lot, especially if you're going to be, paying your cast and crew, which we're never going to not pay our people, especially because our crew was, and our cast were majority people of color, women, queer folks, people of marginalized identities who are already like underpaid, especially in the entertainment industry. So I felt like just a money pit. And I mean, obviously we got something great out of it, but I was like, oh my God. So that was the hardest part. But I mean, there were so many amazing, like joyful parts of the process. Getting to meet all of these filmmakers that, this story brought together, really, because we weren't paying people like, as much as they are worth. And they were just like, we really love this story. We're passionate about it. We want to be involved. And so I think one of the things that surprised me was how much a good story, particularly one that, centers people who don't normally have their stories told on screen, how much that will bring people together and how they'll rally behind that, whether that's, by donating money or, donating their time, or we had, equipment given to us for my camera ambassadors. They donated our equipment. Just people really wanted to support the project. And, when we were coming up with the idea in my living room after having swiped on apps, like we didn't ever think that we would have this much support behind it.
So
Fantastic.
You came up with this in your living room. Did you have an objective in mind? Like, did you want to achieve something specific with the Right Swipe? You did mention that Black women and Asian men are kind of on the bottom of the picking pool when it comes down to dating and things like that. What were some of the things that you guys really wanted to tackle with this show?
Yeah, we, racism, particularly, sexual and romantic racism was one of the biggest things we wanted to discuss and tackle, particularly, misogynoir and, how racism and sexism intersect and really, create a hostile world for Black women. And, I think just we wanted to have a cast or have characters that represented the diversity of like Chicago, and of our friend groups. Like I love, shows that focus on the Black community and, but also like, I don't just have Black friends. I have friends of all races, genders, ethnicities, all these things. And I don't see many shows that kind of represent the kind of diversity. Mm-hmm. So we wanted people to all feel like every person who watched the show to feel like they had a character that they could connect to, whether it was because of, their storyline or because of their identities. And that was like my main goal. I was like, I want people to feel joy, but also feel seen by the show. But, on a more practical note, like I wanted, this serves as, while it's entertainment for everybody, it's also like a really viable work sample for myself and the rest of the team. So it's been much easier for me to get other opportunities and apply for other grants and competitions with such a strong work sample, especially one that's gone to so many, big film festivals. So I'm very thankful for that. And it's opened up so many doors for me since we've released.
Okay, so wait, you said you had how many comments? So great. So I am really like watching the quality of the, you know, the graphics, the animation, the cinematography. You just need to tell your crew and cast, like, just really well done on $25,000 to make 2 of these things. That's not a lot of money to produce something so great. So you all should be really, really proud of that. And I know you know this, but you know, lots of people start by making web series. And so you, like, I just want to, for our audience that's listening, you got to make something. You got to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission, or, you know, and if you're an actor out there, a lot of the clients that I am coaching right now and consulting, it's really cool to see actors going, all right, I'm going to tell my stories. What am I frustrated with? What do I love in the world? What am I embarrassed about? What are my experiences in my family of origin? And put it into a show, put it into a short film, because that's the way that it starts. So gosh, I give you such kudos for the way this looks and the acting on point, you know, and some of these things don't turn out that great. So way to go. Really, really cool. Okay, Kyra, we've got Robertino who's saying, I love Kyra's resilience, fierceness, and multifaceted talent.
Oh,
so
thank you, Robertino. That makes me so happy.
Robertino is one of our brave makers, and he does a lot of the programming for some of the things that we pick. So he's got a good eye. That's a great compliment and word. What would you say to somebody who's trying to figure out what to do regarding their storytelling? They have a story, they have ideas, they want to make something. You did it, you made it. What would you tell them? How would you advise them?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely echo what you just said, is like, don't keep waiting around, like make steps to make it happen. You know, if you have an idea in your head, I have a lot of friends who are like, I have an idea for a screenplay. And I'm like, have you written it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you got to write it. Like, because you never know who you're going to meet, who is going to be interested in helping you. And if you don't have a script to show them, then, you know, they can't do anything. So if you've never written before, you know, I would say, definitely look into classes. I know a lot of places are offering online classes, which actually opens up, you know, more places for you to study that, you know, might not have been able to because of, you know, physical proximity to them. So look for screenwriting classes and workshops that you can take, or, you know, read books, because there is a very specific, you know, format to screenwriting. It's hard to just jump in without any support or without any, you know, prior knowledge. I would say don't try to do everything by yourself. Like, I know I wear a lot of hats, and I did wear a lot of hats on the rights way, but I knew what my limits were. And I was like, I don't know how to direct at this point, so I'm going to get a director. I'm not a cinematographer. I can't make the catering. I'm not going to cook for, you know, 40 people. So ask for help. Don't try to do everything yourself, because I think that really burns people out. And I think that there's just like a graveyard of unfinished projects by people who were trying to play all the roles on their sets. And also, like, just read as many scripts as you can. You know, you can find them online. Like, if there's a specific show that you kind of are emulating, or your show might be similar to, like, read scripts from that show. Like, look at what those look like. Offer to read your friends' scripts and give feedback, so you can see what's working, what's not, and you can apply, you know, those things that you notice to your own work. So it is a process. I will say, like, I'm kind of an anomaly. Like, this was my first film project, and it, you know, was very successful, and we got it done very quickly. But, like, I had also been, you know, studying acting and writing for, you know, a long time before I got this opportunity. So it's never gonna be an overnight thing. But just, like, keep going. Somebody's gonna be interested in your story. Don't let, you know, especially if you're a person of marginalized identity, don't let anybody tell you that your story doesn't have worth or value.
Such good advice. Brave maker, heed that advice. That is so good.
Yeah.
If you're go ahead, Christina.
I'm curious, you said you wore a lot of hats. Did you work as a casting director for these amazing actors in The Right Swipe?
We had a casting director, my friend Nick Park, who also plays Fuckboy Number 1. And he was, you know, amazing. But we did, you know, from being an actor, I had a lot of friends in mind for certain roles. So some people were pre-cast even before we brought Nick on. And then other folks, we were like, we definitely know we want them to audition. But one of the great things about having a casting director, because I don't think we were originally planning on having one, but Nick offered, he was like, I really want to cast this after he read the script. He brought in so many people we had never seen before, never encountered. And like, it was so funny because I think I know Julie and I both had like certain ideas for people who were going to end up in the roles we were auditioning for. And like, we did not pick any of those people. Like they all got picked. We all got, new faces for everybody. And so that's another, I have done workshops on making web series. And one thing I really, really emphasize to folks is like have auditions, because I've seen a lot of web series with people who've never acted before, like I'm going to play the lead, or they just like cast their non-acting friends. And then it ends up being really bad because like just logistically, it'll take longer for you to finish shooting if like your actors keep forgetting their lines or if you can't get a good take. But also like if you even if you give somebody Shakespeare, something like amazing, the script, like Oscar-worthy script, if you put it in the mouth of a bad actor, they will ruin it. And if you have if you're a newer writer and you're still, building your script skills, if you give it to a really good actor, like they will make it sound amazing. So definitely don't undervalue the worth of a great acting performance.
Shout out again. You said his name was Nick
Park.
Nick Park, fantastic job. I thought all the actors were so solid. Like it didn't feel like anyone, like you said, it was just a friend who jumped on the set and read some lines. Like everyone was so funny and so impactful. So really awesome.
Yes, thank you, Nick. We love you.
Yeah.
And Kyra, you talked about doing some classes. So is that the making web series that don't suck or something like that? Is that like an online offering you have?
Yeah, well, it's the first time I did that workshop. That was, by request. And I did it with my friend, Amy 10, who's produced, I'm always saying her last name wrong. Amy 10, who is producing my upcoming feature and has produced a couple web series. But I have also done for Mezcla Media Collective, which is a really amazing organization that supports women and non-binary filmmakers of color. I did a From Paper to Pilot workshop with them. I've done some workshops on, grant writing for web series and short film, because we did, get a substantial amount of grants for the Right Swipe. And so I'm just always happy to offer help in the form of, workshops to aspiring filmmakers or current filmmakers who just, haven't gotten to who haven't done the self-funding thing before, because it is very it's hard, but if you do it right, it gives you so much more agency over your work than having to go through a studio.
Totally, wholeheartedly agree. I'll take a moment, and you'll see Kyra's Instagram here. It's Kyra, Kyra.a.jones on Instagram. Please follow her and support her work. And DM her if you have questions or money. You want to get your name in as executive producer of The Right Swipe. I'm sure she will be taking that. We at Bravemaker are also coming up. We're going to be doing a social media class for makers. So this is, obviously, if you're going like, I don't need help doing social media, then great. If that's not you, then obviously you don't need this. But if you're going, I don't know how to tell my story, I don't know how to make connections. The biggest thing for us makers is we need to learn how to brand ourselves, and that we know that it's such a trendy word. But if all you're doing is asking for money and talking about yourself all the time, you're not going to build your audience. You got to find a way that your story, like what I hear you have done, Kyra, is your storytelling and your filmmaking is impactful. It's creating culture, it's creating conversations, and it's creating opportunities for underrepresented voices. So I love that. Like that's what you're doing, and people want to get behind that. And as you said, people who also want to participate in that will become part of your audience and supporters. So I love that. This is what we're all about here with Bravemaker. So if you need any of that help, go to bravemaker.com and you can sign up for that. It's on August 12th. It's a Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, noon Central time, or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard on Wednesday, August 12th. Cool. Kyra, any other final things we should know about you or find you and your work in the world?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, just to hype your social media workshop up, I can't tell you how important social media was for the Right Swipe. Like we launched our social media before, like months and months before our crowdfunding. So that way we already had an audience built. So we weren't like trying to launch social media at the same time as the crowdfunding. Like there were already people who liked our page and, were waiting, for ways to support the project. So yes, you have to be good at social media if you want to be a successful indie filmmaker. Or have somebody on your team that's good at it. If you don't like it, like hire somebody. But other than that, as I mentioned, I am going to be, I'm a feature, my first feature that is in pre-production right now called Go to the Body. We actually just crowdfunded for the proof of concept for it, but we are still taking money. So if you go to my Instagram page, you can find the link in my bio, but it's a film that explores the impact of sexual violence in the Black community, particularly for not just for survivors, but also for secondary survivors or loved ones of people who've experienced sexual violence. And I'm really excited about it. We were able to meet our crowdfunding goal in 2.5 weeks. But we're still, accepting more money because one, that's not our full budget, but also two, any access funds will also go toward the full feature. It's being produced by Angelique Ross and Amy Tin. And it really is, I describe it as a love letter to Black survivors, to people like Toy and Salau and, a lot of the Black students that I've worked with at Northwestern who don't get to see their experience represented and therefore, don't always understand that they do deserve to seek justice, whatever that looks like for them, to seek healing, to get resources. So I'm really, really pumped that this is going to be happening. We'll be shooting the proof of concept in October, COVID willing, and our crew will largely be Black, and our cast is almost all Black. So all your money will be going toward, Black and other underrepresented filmmakers and actors. So it's going to a good cause.
Really exciting. Can't wait to see that. And you definitely want to go check out Kyra's Instagram. I did some Instagram stalking, and it's very empowering. And there may or may not be some really amazing pole dancing activity going on there. If you want to go and check her out.
Thank you. There is pole dancing, yeah. For fitness, not that, people who pole dance for money is wrong, but no one has ever given me money, so.
I was going through, I was like, wow, this is really about women empowerment, body positivity. Like she's walking the talk. I'm loving it. So yeah, absolutely. Check her out on Instagram. Get your stock on.
Well, we're really happy for you, Kyra. And as a Chicago-based person, if there's any way that Bravemaker can continue to partner, we would love to continue this conversation. And I'm really just wowed at the story, because this is why Bravemaker exists, is to tell brave stories that create change. And we're learning from each other. So thank you. I would love to have you back at some point when you get your feature up and running. We'd love to do a screening when COVID's done, so we can actually be in person in California. So keep us in mind when you start submitting to film festivals.
I will, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This discussion has been really great. I have 2 new friends. Thank you, Lily. Yeah. And thank you to everybody watching. This has been so awesome.
Right on, Kyra. So stand by. We'll talk to you at the end. We'll do our little outro here, but stand by. So glad that you could be here. Christina and I want to invite you to come back in about 20 minutes. We are doing super cool. We're doing a live reading of a new play written by Peter Fenton. So you're going to want to make sure you get some popcorn or change up your clothes, get a little more comfortable so that you can meet the cast and crew of Abandon All Hope, which is a new play by Peter Fenton. And I'm going to pull up the image. Christina is going to be in it, making a debut here for Peter. Anything you want to say about it, Christina?
Yeah, it's super amazing. It's very provocative. It's hilarious. I'll be playing Teresa. She's a bit of a cheeky character, so I'm going to have a lot of fun with her. Peter has given me pretty much a full rein to do what I like with Teresa, so this should be fun. And yeah, I can't wait. This is coming up at 4 p.m. today, Pacific Standard Time.
Fantastic. So yeah, thanks again, everybody, for listening, whether you're listening on the Brave Maker podcast or watching on the replay, YouTube, wherever. Please share this. If you have needs for getting your story out into the world, you should go to our Brave Maker website and go to bravemaker.com/classes. We are in the middle of a screenwriting class right now, but we'll have a new one that will be starting up in September of 2020. But as Kyra said, if you have ideas, you got to write them down. You got to get them out in the world, because they're just going to stick there unless you actually invest in yourself, put a due date on the calendar, and get them on the paper. And we would love to help you with that. So, all right, everybody, you know what we always say: brave stories change the world.
And you're the story. And before we go, I just want to acknowledge Black civil rights leader John Lewis. He was laid to rest yesterday, and New York Times did a phenomenal article about him, describing him as pure joy with unbreakable perseverance. So definitely want to acknowledge that. And everyone out there, Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, continue to protest and fight. We're still in this. You know, we still got a ways to go. So, you know, stay strong and keep fighting. We're in this together.
And as he would say, John Lewis, make some good trouble.
Yeah, let's
all right.
get good trouble.
Till next time. Thanks.